Hello everyone, today we are going to be making this little bit of a risque top. It is a fun top to wear, out in summer, maybe at the beach. I don't know. You might see me, I'm dancing in the top, not because I'm enjoying. I was just showing you, this is a durability test. I was showing you that, even with some dance moves and some jumping up and down, the girls are secure and they do not come out. So the top is, it's risque, but it is safe. There is a lot of stability and protection over there. So now I want to also tell you that this sewing pattern does come with a seam allowance already included. On page 1, you want to print this page first, measure that box that it is 2 inches, and then focus on your layout, which is over there. And also you can print one size at a time using Adobe Acrobat in the layers section. Now put your pieces together, making sure that the corners, the circles are connecting and making full circles. I'm going to be using 1 meter, not 1/2 a meter of fabric to cut my pieces out. And now what I'm doing is I'm measuring the gap on that dot, marking the center of it, and then from the center I'm going to mark another dot about 1/2 inch down. Mark that, and then I am going to be cutting my pattern piece. So as I'm cutting the pattern, I'm gonna go down to that point and then pivot and cut the rest of the pattern. So that's why I did that little dot over there. So I'm gonna be cutting 2 of these pattern pieces. We need 2. If you want it to be fun, you can go ahead and cut 2 different pieces at 2 different colors and then turn it inside out. It might be fun. It's up to you. Or you can add a seam allowance in the center and make it 1/2 and 1/2 in the front, if you get what I'm saying. The vibe, the vibe. So anyway, I did let you guys know that this pattern does come with the 1/2 inch seam allowance already in it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some diagonal straps. So yeah, just cut some diagonal. Why do I always call them diagonal? Bias straps. Cutting some bias straps because since I started making bias straps, I have been a very happy person. They are so easy to turn inside out. So I'm making my bias straps the width of my ruler. The width of this ruler is about 4 centimeters, so that's how I'm making the bias straps. But you can make yours as long or as thick or as thin as you want to. Another thing I do want to let you know is that my straps are about 1.37 meters long. If you want to copy 100% what I did, then you are going to do that. Also, this fabric is a Duchess satin. It is a leftover fabric from the red corset top that I made earlier this year, if you still remember that pattern. So after cutting my bias straps, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to square those straps off by just snipping off the corners. So just square that, square it off, cut off the corners, and then we are going to put these little pieces and make them into a long 1.3, let's just say 1.4 meter long strap. So how do we do this? Okay, you're gonna take one strap, put it right side up, take another strap and put it right side down, but it has to it's almost like you're making an L basically. So take it, put it like that, and then you are going to be sewing diagonally, but I'm going to show you how, like that, just so diagonally like that, making sure that when you are done and you put the straps or pull the straps out or make the straps straight, that it will all be a continuous piece. So just like that, I did that, and so as you can see, when I turned it out, it just made a perfect piece. So yeah, be very careful the direction of what direction your diagonal line that you're stitching is, because if you do it wrong, when you turn it inside out, basically it will not correspond. So yeah, pay attention to that. But basically that's how you extend your straps and make them longer. So when I'm done with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just snip off the excess seam allowance on all the pieces. Go ahead, take it to my iron and press that seam allowance down. Then I'm going to put the strap right sides together, and I'm just going to stitch. I'm going to make my strap now 1 centimeter wide, right? So the piece itself was about 4 centimeters wide, but now when I fold it in half and I'm sewing together, I am going to make sure that my strap is going to be 1 centimeter wide. So go ahead and just stitch the stitch. When you're done stitching, obviously we're going to cut the excess seam allowance, and then use our loop turner to turn the strap inside out, and then go ahead and press it down with an iron. I'll go ahead and iron those straps flat. Ironing them is what's going to give it that super professional look. Now I'm going to grab my top piece and I'm just going to stitch, hand stitch that dot close, making sure to capture the curve. And also I'm going to give you a tip. When you are sewing dots, don't stop at that bust point. You know, don't go all the way up to the what is it, the point, right, and then just stop. No, go when you get to the top of that tip of that bust, right, you want to pivot and continue sewing straight for an extra 1.5 centimeters. That is what's gonna allow your dots to lay super flat. If you stop at that point, 100% at that point, you are going to have a very pointed bust. So that's a tip that you should know when you are sewing your bust, your dots, sorry, when you're sewing your dots. Yeah. So as I get to that tip, you see I'm just extending that stitch to be a little longer, because like I said, that's what's going to make that bust dot lay super flat. So don't forget that. So now when I'm done stitching my dots, I'm going to take the one piece, and what I'm going to do is I am am I going to do the straps? Oh, I am going to cut out I'm going to cut out that dot because it is quite big and quite bulky. You don't have to cut yours out, but I am cutting mine out, and then I am going to iron that dot down and be pressing it towards facing the center of the top. Whoa, I am so sorry. I'm just fumbling over my words. I'm so sorry. So here it is. So as you can see, I'm pushing my dots towards facing the center. Please, so sorry for the dogs barking if you can hear them in the background. So sorry for that, you guys. So I'm going to do the same thing with the other piece. Now I'm going to grab that pattern. I'm going to grab that pattern piece. What I'm just going to do is I'm going to snip off a little bit of that side seam. You can make it as wide as you want to. Let's make it 5 centimeters wide, and then we're going to mark the grain line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my interfacing, and I am going to be cutting that 2 pieces of that out of my interfacing. So that's what we're going to use to stabilize the fabric for where we're going to be stitching our loops. So just go ahead and cut 2 pieces of that and iron it onto. This is the iron on interfacing, so I'm going to iron it onto the side seams of one of the pieces basically. So now when I'm done ironing on that interfacing, I'm going to take the piece and I'm going to make it face the right side, and then I am going to be stitching those straps onto the neckline on the right side of the fabric. So now when that is done, I am going to take the other piece right side down, meaning that both of my pieces will be right sides together, and I am going to be stitching that neckline. So now when I'm done doing that, I'm going to clip that curve on that neckline so that it releases the tension and also makes my curve nice and crisp and flat. So go ahead and just clip. Make sure that when you are clipping, you do not go past that seam that you have stitched. You do not go past the thread. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off the excess seam allowance over there. I'm going to take it to my iron, press it down, and then I am going to be doing a top stitch. Now when you do your top stitch, you make sure that you skip half an inch at the beginning and then top stitch, and then stop half an inch before the end. Makes me wonder who you think playing with. I'm just telling myself to keep playing this record back over and over again. Sweat to change, but I noticed the end. Now what I'm going to do is when I'm done with that top stitch, I'm going to go ahead and just pin my armholes together. Remember my pattern piece, the top is still turned inside out, so we're just going to pin those armholes, and we're going to do the exact same procedure that we did for the neckline. We're first going to do our first stitch that puts everything together, then we're going to do our top stitch, making sure that you are top stitching on the same side as your neckline. You don't want to top stitch on one part of the fabric and then change it up. That's going to look very weird. So make sure that all of your top stitch are on the right side of the fabric basically. So yeah, make sure that your lining is basically the only thing that you are top stitching. You don't want to accidentally top stitch the front facing fabric or the fashion fabric. Now I'm doing the exact same thing, right? You're not going to be able to reach the corner of that piece, and that is okay. So you want to start about an inch away from it for everything to rest comfortably, and then go ahead and just top stitch. Remember to back stitch, and then top stitch. So when I'm top stitching about a millimeter away from that original seam. It makes everything look absolutely crisp and professional. Remember to stop your top stitching half an inch before the end. Do not forget that. That is very, very important. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to be going ahead and just working on my loops, right? So I'm going to take my loops and I'm going to just stitch them down, making sure that I am stitching my loop about a little bit more than half an inch away from the bottom, because remember the 1/2 an inch is going to be used to close the top. So you don't want to put those loops in that seam allowance. It's not gonna work. So make sure that you skip about a little bit more than half an inch. It's up to you, but please do not accidentally stitch within that half an inch seam allowance. It is going to mess things up for you. So I'm stitching my loops, and because I use that interfacing to stabilize everything, it's much more easy to just stitch those loops in. And yeah, so I'm going to be making about 2 loops. You can make 3, you can make 4. I don't think you'll need 4. 3 maximum. Make 3 loops. Now when you are done stitching your loops like that, what you're going to do is you're going to fold that other side of the top over those loops, making sure that you are sandwiching those loops in there. So just fold over, and then you are going to stitch, right? When you are done folding over and stitching that, you're going to take the top, turn it inside out one more time, take those straps, stuff them inside the top, then you are going to pin that bottom seam that is now open. You're going to pin it closed, and then you are going to stitch, leave a little bit of an opening so that you are able to turn the top inside out. Now make sure that when you are pinning this when you are pinning your bottom seam, that everything is going to line up 100%. I was just showing you guys how I stitched those side seams, the ones with the loops. So yeah, so go ahead and just pin, making sure that the dots are matching up, everything is matching up nice and perfectly. Stitch that bottom seam closed, but make sure that you are leaving about 1.5 inches open so that we are able to turn the top inside out. And also a very important thing you need to do is make sure that you capture that curve in the center. They perfectly perfect. Yeah, and also before you turn your top inside out from this point, do not forget to clip the curves. If you don't clip the curves, it's going to be hard for you to have a smooth top when you turn it inside out. So there we go, I've stitched it right. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just clip everything like I said. Also, I'm just cutting off those corners, right, so that I do not have too much bulking when I turn the top inside out. So now I'm reaching into that little pocket that I made, and I'm going to grab my straps, pull them out, and then pull the rest of the top out. So that is it. When you are done with this, you are going to obviously do a blind stitch to close that pocket. I will leave a link in the description for some really resourceful videos if you're not sure how to top stitch, blind stitch, cut diagonally, all of that stuff. I'm going to be leaving some helpful resources down in the description. So if you feel like I didn't really go and describe everything 100%, just go and look. You might find a very helpful video that is going to explain to you things a little bit better. So that center looks a bit awkward because I didn't clip it 100%. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are clipping everything like 100%. Like I said, I didn't even clip at all, I'm so sorry. And I told you guys to clip, I forgot to clip. So now I did turn it inside out again to go ahead and clip it. So at this point, like I said, you want to turn it inside out, close the pocket using a blind stitch, press it down with an iron, and you are going to be done with this top. It is absolutely gorgeous, and I mean, it's a perfect Valentine's Day top. It's an upside down heart basically. So yes. Now, if you did find this video helpful, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
This love affair began.